Okay, Pranam Dapal, Krista Kinnishiona Hihid. Good afternoon, my name is Councillor Charlie McCoubry. I'm the leader of the council. I can confirm that the committee officer has conducted a sound check before the start of the meeting, so I presume everyone can hear me. Can I welcome everyone to today's meeting, where we'll all be attending remotely. In addition to cabinet members, we also have non-cabinet members and officers joining to assist us with our discussions. For those viewing the live stream recording, cabinet members are identified with an asterisk next to their name. The meeting will be recorded in live streams, other than for exempt items, and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should the live streaming fail, the meeting will continue, and a recording will be available through the council's website following the conclusion of the meeting. Can I remind members that translation facilities are available and to choose your language of choice. If you wish to speak, please use the raise hand function. You can use the chat facility, but please note that I may not be able to monitor the chat during the meeting. All microphones will be muted. If you've indicated your intention to speak, you'll be invited to turn your microphone on. If you leave your device for any reason, can you please ensure you're muted and that you turn your video off? And can I remind members that as there are exempt items on the agenda today, you should be the only person able to hear any confidential and exempt items being discussed. So without further ado, we'll move on to the agenda. Item number 1 is apologies for absence.
I've received one apology from Councillor Goronwy-Edwards.
Okay, no other apologies, thank you. Item number 2 is declarations of interest, Code of Local Government. Members are reminded they must declare the existence and nature of their declared personal interests. Does anybody have an interest they'd like to declare? No. Item 3, urgent matters. I'm not aware of any urgent matters. Nope. Item number 4 is to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which are on pages 4 to 14. I don't propose to go through them. Is there members happy? Would somebody like to propose the minutes?
Yeah, Councillor Charlie, if I can just raise an error on page 4.
Sure.
I've been omitted from those present and you've been put down twice, so if that could be corrected, please.
Yeah, I'll make that correction. I
don't know, like twins, Greg. Yeah, I'm sure we'll sort that out. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item. Sorry, have we moved the minutes? Sorry, Councillor Bryan moved them. With the seconded Councillor Greg. Thank you. Are members all happy with that? Please indicate. Thank you very much. Item number 5, announcements by the leader. So we'll just give a quick COVID update. Cases have increased steadily since the last meeting. They're now at 182 cases per 100,000. It's interesting to look at that, though, the different rates among different age groups. Under 25, the rate is 342 per 100,000. Over 60, it's 48.1. So it's still a lot higher than we'd like, but clearly it's in the less vulnerable groups, and it hasn't as yet translated into a big increase in hospital numbers. But clearly we'd much rather see rates go the other way. Welsh Government will announce tomorrow the latest round of relaxations. Judging on previous form, I don't think they'll be as gung-ho as they've been in England. There'll be a more cautious approach, which is above my pay grade to make those kind of decisions. But it does cause us issues with cross-border travel when tourists come with different rules. So whatever the differences are, I think there'll be enough. I hope there'll be enough publicity around that people, our guests coming here, are aware of the differences, because it has caused trouble in the past in our licensed premises and with our officers trying to enforce the different regulations. I've had the pleasure over the last couple of weeks of attending our service performance reviews. Time after time, it's been really humbling to see the work that our staff have put in, both in maintaining the status quo and coming up with innovative and new ways to support our most vulnerable members. So any members who haven't had the chance to go to them, the details, the reports are on our website, and I'd really recommend you get a chance to look at them. Doesn't come without a cost, though. It really concerns me, the mental pressures, mental burnout that our staff are going through. So I really hope that as we come into the summer, that they do take the opportunity to take some time away, because we all need to recharge our batteries. I think there'll be plenty more challenges ahead, sadly. So we need to take that time to refresh where we're at. And finally, our schools. It's the last week in school. Again, they've done amazing things over the last 16, 17 months. To continue to deliver education to our kids under these circumstances has been incredibly difficult. And I've just talked about the rise in numbers of COVID recently. So this last term, they've had to cope with that again, with year groups being sent home and blended learning been really difficult. So again, they're off on Friday, and as a parent, a resident, and leader of this council, I'd have to offer all the teaching staff and the school staff my thanks. So that's me. Thank you. So it's any announcements for the Chief Executive?
I'd just like to endorse each of your and every one of your announcements, Leader. I've got nothing further to add. Thank you.
Wonderful. So we move on to item number 7, which is review the Cabinet Forward Work Programme. That's on pages 15 to 47. Do members have any comments they'd like to make on that? No, we're all happy. Just accept that. Councillor Gregg.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. Just on page 17, the report on Porthairius, which I'm actually bringing forward to you today. It shows the portfolio as a cabinet member for economic development, and obviously because it's purely to do with the repair of the structure, it was actually transferred into my portfolio. So if the forward work programme could be updated to show that, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments? We're happy to move on. Yeah, I'll take that as a yes. So item number 8 sits within the economic development and leisure portfolio. Councillor Louise, it's about the establishment of a new economy in place directorate programmes and projects, and that's on pages 48 to 83. Over to Councillor Louise.
Fernanda, good afternoon, everybody. Just to let you know, I'm doing the 2-screen option this afternoon. So I've got a screen here with the report on and looking at you. So if I don't look straight at the screen, please forgive me. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but off we go. So this is very exciting because this is the establishment of more project boards. And usually when we establish project boards, a little bit of groaning because it means more meetings for officers and councillors to attend. But we think this is going to be very key in driving through the projects that we have bubbling away. Some are more ready than others. We've got new funding streams coming forward from Welsh Government, Transforming Towns being one, funding streams from UK Government, Levelling Up Fund being another. So there's all this sort of new capital money coming about, and that means that some of the projects which have sort of been waiting to go or can be spurred on now, we can actually look at the finance of it. So I think this is a really good timing as we come out of a dreadful 14-15 months that we can use these to focus on different areas within our county. And as you can see from the report, there's 5 boards being set up. 3 of them are based around place. So there's a Abergele Town Centre, Llanrwst Town Centre, and Llandudno Town Centre. So similar format to the Bay Life Board, which was set up for Colwyn Bay. And again, that was a chunk of money which we received over many years and really did transform parts of Colwyn Bay. We're not completely finished there, but we think that was a good way to deliver all those projects. So the report goes into slightly sort of dull detail about how project boards work and the structures in place and how they're going to be briefed and how us as councillors and cabinet members are going to be briefed and involved. But they are quite important that we've got this structure in place. And I think if we instead of focusing on the report, if we go down to the appendices, I think on page 58 we've got the hold on, let's start at 56. Page 56, it's the terms of reference for the delivery boards for the place, the place plans, if you like, and it says what they're going to contribute to. So it depending on the projects that are going on in those different areas. As I say, in Abergele, we're looking at the transport issues as we have been doing for years in Abergele. We're looking at improving the beach front. We're looking at improving the town centre, and they've obviously done a lot of work in Abergele on the place plan with the town council. So those are projects that are really ready to go, and the project board will be driving those. In Llanrwst, we have been looking at, obviously we now have Glasdeer, so we're looking at making the best use of that, looking at the Plas-Indre site, looking at the middle of the town, how we can make that work better, and keeping Llanrwst as very much a market town and an important place for the rural communities to go and visit. And then we've got the Llandudno Project Board, which at the moment has the tram, the redevelopment of the Great Orme tram that sits in it, but there are plenty of other projects which are perhaps not as ready to go as over in the east, but plenty of projects which are now coming forward because of these new sources of funding, and that board will drive those. And as I say, it doesn't necessarily mean all based on tourism or transport. It can also be housing-led regeneration as well. They'll all come forward under these specific areas. So if we go down to page 58 in the appendix, you've got the membership of the board, and this went to scrutiny, and a lot of the debate was who was going to sit on these important boards. Remembering that there is a member from Economy and Place Scrutiny and a member from the local area forum as to where it sits. And we'll go through at the end what we need to agree to, but just to set the scene, Scrutiny would like Abdul Khan to be the representative on the Abergele board, otherwise Abdul's from Colwyn Bay, so that's a good insight as to how it went well there. Llanrwst Town Centre, Aaron Wynne was put forward. Aaron's obviously from Llanrwst and always wants to get stuck into anything around his hometown. He's very keen. Llandudno Town Centre was Pat Hebron was put forward, and obviously Pat is also a local member there, and so we can vote on those at the very end. So that's the area boards. Two other things going on in this report. The next one is the infrastructure programme. Infrastructure, basically around anything to do with transport or flood defence or active travel plan. And if we go to page 77, the infrastructure programme board, again, this sets out the overview. It sets out the membership, and just to note, we need to add in the appendix of this that there will be a scrutiny member from Economy Place within the membership there. So if someone can just note that, we can add that onto there. And it says the programme's board of responsibility. So as we said, flooding, local transport, active transport, road safety, structures, highway maintenance, coastal programme. It's huge, and the sums of money involved in looking after all of our structures is enormous. And in Conway, we may not have as many people as other counties around Wales, but we certainly have probably the most number of bridges and roadways. And if you think about to the south of the county, all of those B roads, even more minor roads, have to be maintained by the county, and it's a vast project. So that's, you can see there the functions of the board, etc., when they shall meet every 6 weeks, unless there's something that needs more attention. And Scrutiny put forward Councillor Don Milne to sit on that infrastructure programme board as the Scrutiny representative. And the final board is something close to my heart, which is leisure services. And this is to ensure that the capital sums of money which were allocated to leisure to upgrade the facilities across the county actually happen and happen with due diligence and happen in a timely manner. So this board is going to be a combination of ERF and leisure management. I think if we go down to page 79, you can see the project brief, and again it all looks a bit boring, but actually it's really important, this stuff, to make sure we have everything, the benefits, the objectives, the scope, etc., and the interested parties. You can read that at your leisure as such. So this is important, that we make sure that this money, the capital money which has been allocated, actually goes to improving our facilities. So at the end of this, we're going to see shiny new changing rooms, a new 4G pitch over in Abergele. There's going to be work continuing on at Llandudno Swim Centre, upgrading those changing rooms. A lot of work done on Colwyn Leisure Centre, on the hall there. There's all sorts of stuff, new athletics track. It's really positive. And this project board will drive that. And the nominated scrutiny member is Councillor John Roberts. He's agreed to come and sit on this board if we agree to those nominations today. And finally, there was also an ask in this report for a representative from Economy and Place to sit on the Economy and Culture Restructure Project Board. So this is an internal restructure of the various services. It used to be called CDS, Community Development Services. We've restructured it, and there is a project board to make sure that runs smoothly and all staff are allocated in the right positions. And the nomination for that, I think, was again Councillor Pat Hebron was Scrutiny asked that she be nominated to sit on that board. And finally, Scrutiny said that they want an update of all these programmes and projects every 6 months, which I think is reasonable. So that's the basis of the report. If I'll take any comments and then we'll just go through what we need to agree to today. Thank you, Leader.
Okay, Diolch, Louise. Very thorough walk through there. Councillor Mark was first.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Louise. Thank you very much for doing a very good walkthrough of the report. I'd like to second your proposals. I know we'll be taking them individually, but I just wanted to raise a couple of points, particularly around cultural regeneration, which will lead us into the next 2 reports, of which myself and the leader will be presenting. I think it's very important, particularly with the town centre regeneration, Abergele in particular, we've been involved with being on the place plan, how important it is that these project boards are set up to deliver, that there's lots of great projects coming forward and we need that mechanism to move forward. So thank you very much again, and I look forward to seeing all this happening. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Councillor Gregg.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Mark's beat me to seconding. I fully support these recommendations. I think it's been a long time coming, and we've got it to this point now. Particularly with the infrastructure board and the leisure board, you look at the actual scope and breadth of the work that's covered within those, and this is a perfect way of A, firstly tracking everything that's going, B, making sure the projects stay on track, and then C, making sure that all our members know exactly where we're up to with these. So I fully welcome it.
Okay, brilliant. Any other members like to speak? No. So just from my point of view, I think, as Mark has referred, the Abergele Place Board has put an awful lot of work in over the years. I'm the current vice chair, and it was clear that we had the ideas and we were able to fund sort of proposals, but we hadn't got the wherewithal to bring it forward. So having this board set up, I think, is really exciting. But I think moving forward, we discussed it, the Common Opportunities Board, that there'll be the need to look at those areas where they don't have a place plan, or maybe they don't have a strong town council who can bring these ideas forward and put some support in there, so that nowhere's left behind. And I'd like to think these programme boards will be the first stage, and we'll look at other areas in time, because it's about the whole county, and it's not about Abergele, although I like to go on about it a lot. So, Louise, did you want to go through the actual what you need us to vote on, please?
Yes, so today the Cabinet need to approve the brief, structure and the establishment of the 5 boards, and we also need to agree the nominations of each representatives. So I'll just run through them. Abergele Town. Yes.
Louise, sorry, Reen's trying to get in there.
Yeah, I think all we need to do is to approve the brief, structure and establishment of them. And the nominations really are a matter for the scrutiny committees. So we can welcome them on board because they've been nominated, but the approval, because the structure you're approving mentions scrutiny members, I think all we need is 2.1 really.
Well, that saves me a couple of minutes, so that's great then. So all I need Cabinet to do is 2.1, approve the brief, structure and the establishment of Abergele Town Centre, Llanrwst Town Centre, Llandudno Town Centre project boards, the infrastructure programme and the leisure services repair project board as well. And I'll propose that we do that.
Okay, it's been proposed by Louise and seconded by Councillor Mark. Members indicate if they're in favour, please. Wonderful, thank you very much. That's a really exciting project. So we'll move on to another exciting project. Agenda item number 9, which is Arts, Heritage, Libraries and Culture portfolio. It's Craig Conway creating the Spark draft culture strategy for Conway County Borough, and that's on pages 84 to 137. And Councillor Mark's going to take us through that.
Renowned pawb, thank you very much for allowing me to bring this report to Cabinet. It's very exciting for me to be able to present this to you. The cultural strategy was an idea that I had a few years ago about bringing together all of these great things that we do within Conway County and how we bring it all together and also create a platform. And the next report, which will be presented by the leader, is going to be very exciting as well, because it's one of the tangible outcomes of the cultural strategy is the City of Culture bid. So between pages 84 and 137, you will see the report on Craig Conway, Creating the Spark. And it's very key that kind of subtitle, Creating the Spark. It's about getting people excited about getting creativity flowing and bringing together all of these wonderful elements that we've got. So the report is about asking the public about how they can help us develop the vision. It's about taking it out to consultation. So the ideas in the strategy have emerged from conversations held with various organisations and individuals across the region. And they also connect with and reinforce a number of national and county plans and strategies. So we've got this very grassroots approach going up to the national and regional strategies that we work towards. We know that with strategies, they can only succeed if we all work together, and Conway's communities need to make this strategy their own. So against this backdrop, Craig Conway has been prepared, which has actions against our corporate plan objectives. And the corporate plan is our roadmap, and people in Conway will live in a county where culture, heritage and Welsh language thrive. That's key to where we are going with this strategy. And it goes on to say that we will harness the arts, culture and creative industries to support the regeneration of our communities. And that then links back into the previous paper that's just been proposed and supported by Councillor Louise and Cabinet. So within our cultural strategy, we have 3 principal strands. So they are people, place, and programme. So under people, we want to create a strategic cultural partnership which provides leadership and coordination for the cultural sector and to oversee the implementation of the cultural strategy. Then we'll be providing capacity to build support, training, skills development and networking opportunities to the cultural sector across Conway. We'll be developing a pilot for wellbeing projects, and these will be building on the work that's already undertaken by our services across Conway. We'll be developing pilot projects that integrate the Welsh language, particularly the experience of Welsh language, into our cultural tourism offer across the county. So that's very exciting. We want to really embed everything that we do within Welsh language and culture. We also want to explore the feasibility of creating a new cultural venture fund that sources a range of income sources to generate a sustainable funding base for cultural strategy projects. Next strand is place. So place is very important because it grounds you within your locality. It's buildings, the landmarks, everything that we see as being part of our kind of collective community heritage and so on and so forth. So under place, we want to support the creation of 5 cultural launch pads across the county. This will use the hub and spoke model of cultural development, where creative alliances in launch pad areas will develop action plans that support cultural-led renewal throughout the surrounding area. And it's something that really will be very community driven. There's lots of great ideas out there. We really want to harness that. And the third strand is programme. So we want to develop a programme of cultural based events, festivals, activity, and enhance the existing major events through culture. This will raise the profile of culture, generate increased footfall, extend the visitor season, and use our cultural assets to their fullest potential. So what we're aiming to do during 2021 is focus upon the first of the strands, which is the people element of the strategy, namely to establish a robust governance and resource the strategy. So this will draw upon UK good practice to establish the suitability of the proposed governance model, identify roles and terms of reference, establish each body, recruit and upskill board members, and then there'll be action planning and community engagement. There'll be a marketing and communications plan, and then we'll be developing the Cultural Venture Fund. So in terms of what arts and culture bring to the economy annually in the UK is just under £12 billion. So it's nothing to be sniffed at. It's a great part of our economy. So the draft strategy provides a framework for us to continue using and to develop the way in which we harness culture and the arts to deliver economic benefits, as well as the corporate, regional and national outcomes. So this went to Economy and Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee, a bit of a mouthful, and there was a slight amendment to the draft as it was presented. They asked for a specific reference to be made to the council's intention to bid for the City of Culture status, and hopefully this will be supported in our next paper that the leader will be providing, and it's one of the tangible outputs of our strategy. So under 1.6, following approval from members, it's outlined that the proposal will go out to community consultation on the draft strategy from July 2021, and just kind of go over my comments really in the report, because I think it kind of summarises my position quite succinctly. So, I believe that this strategy will not only help us make the case for culture in Conway, but it also highlights and draws together much of the good work that's already taking place. What I find really exciting is that we are going to be one of the first local authorities in Wales to propose this approach. It's quite novel, quite innovative, and it's an opportunity for Conway to become an exemplar, sector-leading council in adopting a culture-led approach to community renewal. And that's something which I'm very passionate about. So what I'm hoping is that the positive impact that culture can have upon our communities is going to be well evidenced. And there's lots of different reports which provide the data to support that, and that the strategy will provide that roadmap to deliver innovative, lasting, cultural-driven benefits in Conway at a time when regeneration and recovery are more important than ever. So the recommendation is that members consider Craig Conway, and that they give approval for it to go to consultation as outlined in 4.1. So thank you very much. Very happy to answer any questions, and if there are anything that I can't answer, we should have Sarah Ecob or Jane Richardson here, and thank you very much.
Mark, it's great to see your passion and enthusiasm for this project come through. Councillor Louise.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Mark, and I'm so glad to see this here, mainly because you can stop wittering on about it. You've been going on about this for years. One of the first things you talked about back in 2017 about really pushing culture to the forefront, because it's what we do anyway, but trying to galvanise that within a structure and how it works. And seriously, Mark and I have been having many conversations about this over the years. So it really is lovely to see your baby come forward. And although some of the phrases can be a little bit abstract in what we're trying to do, I've zoned into page 119, which is the ideas in the appendix for cultural programming, and I'm already getting excited about a Festival of Conway Town. I don't know why that hasn't been done over the years. Many things go on in Conway Town, but having one huge festival, a major film festival looking at Welsh produced films in the summer, and peer-to-peer existing festivals, creating the link between Llandudno Pier, Colwyn Bay Pier as well. There's a running race actually that goes between the two. And slow routes. I love this idea of creating that drop-off as you're going into sort of Northwest Wales, drop-off in Abergele or Llanrwst, and just discover a new area that you wouldn't necessarily, you just drive past to the hotspots. And I really like that idea of having a day, half a day out on the way to your journey down to Northwest Wales. There's loads of really actual good ideas here that sit under kind of the more abstract thought about culture and the economy. So I'm really supportive of it, and I want to second this report. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Any other members? Julie and then Emma.
Thank you, Leader. To echo a lot of what Louise has said, really, this is really exciting. The Leader and I visited a number of our secondary schools over the last couple of weeks, and talking about the new curriculum, and it's so embedded in our culture and in belonging, and a lot of the words that you're using there, Mark, that are included in this really go hand in hand with what's coming up for young people, and it's just really exciting. And yeah, for young people to feel that history and that culture, and the love of the language will do them wonders for moving forward through life, to feel like you really belong and you're a part of something special. So I would have seconded it if Louise hadn't, but just really exciting, and well done to everybody who's worked so hard to pull this together. So diolch.
Thanks, Julie. Councillor Emma.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Mark, for taking us through this. It looks like I want to fourth it, being as Councillor Julie and Councillor Louise are second and thirding it. But for me, it's so important, and it's something that we know is important. We know we need to concentrate on it, but bringing all of it together into one place is the first time it's happened. Absolutely vital. Also, really pleased to see the acknowledgement of health and well-being within that. So, looking at the, I think it's the feasibility of a range of culture for wellbeing partnership projects, which I think is absolutely vital. We know that our communities have been through so much during the pandemic, compounding loneliness and isolation. So seeing those sorts of projects going forward will be really important for that arts and health, essentially. So I'd be really excited to see what that brings as well. So absolutely fully support it. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Emma. It was really well received by scrutiny. I think comments are really excited about it. Could really see how this would drive our economy forward. So I think that's been seconded, thirded and fourth today. So if members would like to raise their hands in favour, please indicate. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to 9.2, which is to approval to submit a bid for the UK City of Culture. Now, I feel a bit of a fraud taking this because this is all Mark's hard work, but we felt that this was such an exciting proposal for the county that it should be myself as leader who leads it. But I feel like a big giant cuckoo that's landed in Mark's nest, but I'm not going to throw him out. He will be working very hard on this bid, and I will just be popping up and making cookie noises, I guess. But I'm absolutely thrilled to be presenting this. A bit of background: it's a competition run by the Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. It first started in 2013 when the City of Derry, Londonderry won it, then Hull in 2017, and most recently this year it's the City of Coventry. But excitingly for us this year, they decided to change the criteria, that it could be a region rather than just a city. If you read the criteria, it's clear it absolutely chimes with the strategy that Mark and the team have come up with. It's using culture as a driver of your economy to recover from this pandemic. So it was a no-brainer. We've done all the work, we're there, we're good to go. And it's very prescient of you, Mark, at 17 to realise that this was where we were going to end up. So for me, culture is something we do incredibly well, but we're not going to win this by saying we're brilliant at culture. We have to make a case as to what difference winning this will make. So we're looking to transform tourism to a certain extent. We want to make it more of a year-round experience, take that seasonality away, that low pay, so it's a decently paid career. We want to look at models where we can reduce the environmental impact. We know it can be, in some of the honey spots especially, it can put a lot of pressure on local services, on residents. So we want to look to spread that, throughout the year, but also throughout the county. We want to get people to come and see areas of the county they wouldn't come very often, like my own town, Abergele, Llanfairpwll, Llansannan, Llangyrnu, all those sort of areas. We want to celebrate our culture in a way that's it's respectful. We welcome people to our county as guests, and we want to create an environment where they want to behave as guests. We want to highlight and showcase the language. It's one of the oldest languages in Europe, so it's a huge repository of history and culture, but it's also a living, breathing, vibrant, modern language. 25% of our adults, 50% of our children speak on a daily basis. And for me, I think it's uniquely connected to its people and its place, and that's going to be first and foremost. We want to build some intergenerational work. We know we've got the oldest population in Wales, but those older people, they're a huge repository of skills and knowledge, and we don't want to lose that. We want to create that intergenerational thing where they're passing those skills on to young people, whether that's craft, whether it's the language, whether it's the history. We really want to celebrate that. We want to address inequality with this. We know there's some areas in our county which are much poorer than others, but culture is for everybody. It's the everyday things we do in our houses, in our pubs, in our village halls, in our schools. We want to celebrate that. It's not just all opera and high culture. And we want to create a legacy, building all those things, building better links between our coastal towns and our rural towns, our English communities and our traditionally Welsh-speaking communities. We want to do all that, and we'll make Conway a better place for every resident. We'll make everyone far more proud of where we're from. But most importantly, that this is not a vanity project. We were doing this anyway. We know this will bring money into our economy. We know it will improve the lives of our residents. And it's just a lucky aside for us that we're now eligible for this competition. In terms of timescale, the expression of interest goes in on the 19th this month. The team have put an enormous amount of work on this, just meeting after meeting after meeting to get this in. Huge buy-in with the third sector, and that enthusiasm, I'm sure Mark will say, has been really encouraging, the amount of people who want this to succeed. They'll be shortlisted to 6th in September. That brings £40,000 of revenue. To drop a long application, that's then through to March next year when the 6 are cut to 3, and then they pay visits to each of the entrants, with the eventual winner being introduced in May. So I'm really pleased to take any questions. I'm very happy to move the recommendation, and again just want to thank Mark for all his hard work. Thank you. Mark, did you want to come in?
Thank you very much for your kind words, Leader. I think I just wanted to, the team have been amazing. We've had such a short turnaround time for this, really pulled out all the stops, and there has been back-to-back meetings to get things done. I'm incredibly optimistic and excited by what we're proposing, and fingers crossed that we're able to move forward, because I think we've got a lot to offer here in Conway. And there's a phrase that we've used, which is we may be small, but we are mighty. And I think that's a good thing to latch on to. And very happy to second the proposals. And thank you once again for elevating this to the level it needs to. And thank you.
Yeah, Mark. Anybody else? We all happy? Yeah. So the recommendations from pages 139, 2.1, 2.2, 2.1, that Cabinet gives approval for the submission of a Conway County Borough Council-led application, Conway County to the UK City of Culture 2025. 2.2, that due to the limited timetable for submission of the applications, Cabinet considered this report as urgent, that any delay caused by the calling process would seriously prejudice the Council's and the public's interest. In accordance with the Constitution, the Chairman of the Council Agreement has also been sought, and the Chair has agreed to the suspension of the call-in. So I've moved it, Councillor Mark has seconded it. Are members happy to show that they're happy with the proposal? Fantastic, great news. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item number 10, which sits within the education portfolio, which is Welsh in Education Strategic Plan Annual Review Report, and Councillor Julie will be leading on that. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, the WESP. So it's necessary for local authorities to prepare, revise and present Welsh in Education strategic plans on a yearly basis. The WESP details how local authorities aim to achieve the Welsh Government's outcomes and targets outlined in the Welsh Medium Strategy, Education Strategy. The Government's revised strategy will be effective until September 2022. It's necessary for local authorities to present an annual report on the progress of the WESP, and the annual progress report template has been amended by the Welsh Government last year due to the COVID restrictions. Obviously, that's had an impact on the progress against the WESP. So the targets I'll read them to you quickly. The 7. So the first one is that more 7-year-old children are educated through the medium of Welsh. 2, that more pupils continue to improve their Welsh language skills when transferring from primary to secondary school. 3, that more 14 to 16-year-old pupils studying for qualifications through the medium of Welsh. 4, that more 6 to 19-year-old students study subjects through the medium of Welsh at schools, colleges and work-based learning. 5, more pupils have higher skills in Welsh. 6, Welsh medium additional learning needs provision. And 7, workforce planning and continuous professional development. So if I take you to page 176, we can touch on the work that's happened over the last year. 1 second. So, like I say, the impact of COVID, we've had kids in school, out of school, home learning. So the usual situation has just not been the case. But if we touch on, I'll go through. So more 7-year-old children being taught through the medium of Welsh. This is monitored monthly. The numbers of children on the scheme, in September 2020, there were 325 children funded through the scheme. In Conway, through the medium of Welsh and English bilingually, and again, an unusual year due to COVID, so the numbers not quite where they have been in the past. There are a number of things. So that's the 30-hour childcare in Conway provision I was talking about there. We've also got developed new bespoke buildings for Conway early years settings. That's come through Cabinet before, you'll recall, when we get the updates as to the progress on the building side of it. I won't go through all of them there. We've got the Croeso i'r Bont scheme, Clebrand scheme supporting Welsh through Meddiad Meithrin in English language settings, Club Cwtch, individual meetings with Meddiad Meithrin, new apprenticeship schemes. So as you can see, there's still an awful lot that's going on there. In outcome 1, which is one of the key areas for that sort of early success, really, in the hope that then when you move on to outcome 2, to improve the number of primary pupils that are moving on to secondary education and Cymraeg in Welsh. So the figures there, the leader and I visited Craven. Figures continue to increase in terms of the number of young people accessing the trochea there. Where they get immersed in the Welsh for those who don't have first language Welsh skills, and we're actually expanding on that because of the success that the school has currently. Again, looking at these figures, it's hard really to look at what those might have been. So the number of percentage of primary and secondary pupils studying through the medium of Welsh has increased from 21.9 in 2018 to 22 2019, and then to 22.3 2020. But the usual process is that we would have staff from Craven going out around the primary schools, especially the feeder primary schools and other primary schools around the county, but that work obviously hasn't been able to happen because we weren't able to visit other schools, so it has had an impact, but continues to grow. They're doing great things. They were sharing with us, with myself and the leader, that there's great outreach work that's happening within schools. So fantastic. See, outcome 3, more 14 to 16-year-old students studying for qualifications through the medium of Welsh. You'll see again their progress has been reviewed in terms of promoting the use of Welsh in schools. All deputies received a copy of the WESP as an action plan. Deputies have been made aware of grant funding to promote the use of Welsh. So again, an awful lot going on within schools. Outcome 4, more 16 to 19-year-olds studying through the medium of Welsh in schools, colleges. Again, there's a great deal of information here. New collaboration started in September between Craven and Glan-Clwyd. A-level psychology is being delivered by Coleg Llanryddo through distance learning. We saw the distance learning provision that they have at Craven this week, and it's amazing to see, really. So they're able to offer opportunities for Welsh first language for a number of other subjects. A-level French mentioned here, music, A-level drama. Really important that we continue with the Welsh language through Key Stage 5 as well as Key Stage 4. Outcome 5, more learners in higher skills in Welsh. Again, a number of activities happening there. Siata Iaith, Cymraeg Campus, the Welsh Cluster Model, the Welsh Language Forum, and an increase in the number of schools working towards level gold, 12 gold, 9 silver and 2 bronze in the Siata Iaith. So that's seeing great improvements. Welsh medium provision through additional learning needs. Again, the situation in schools is looking good. Currently, schools cater for children's needs in-house. Should unit pupils require further support, suitable bilingual staff are available. And we've also got the Key Stage 3 Autism Unit, which is opened with Welsh-speaking staff as well. And we continue to work with schools to ensure that their plans each year when they are recruiting are that they're recruiting bilingual staff, especially in the additional learning needs. Outcome 7, workforce planning and continuous professional development. So we're really successful here in Conway in the sabbatical scheme. So teachers have the opportunity to go on sabbatical to improve their Cymraeg. If you look on page 184, you'll see that we've got a number of teachers who have gone on the 1-year sabbatical course. We've also got part-time courses available. Teachers have completed foundation course, 5-year course teachers from September. We've also got virtual sessions happening. So really great to see staff embracing the Welsh as well in our schools. So yeah, sorry that I said that I was going to be quite brief, but I think it's important that we realise how important the Welsh language is to us in education. And obviously we've got the new plan that's being worked on currently for up to 2030. And Conway are actually really the most progressive, I think, in the whole of Wales in terms of their plans with schools, with education. And there's a lot here about working with parents, working with families, working with communities. That's really important in order to get that buy-in, really. So this is just really to be noted, Leader. Let me take you back to the recommendations. So members informed of the progress against the local authorities WESP, and members support and promote the strategy and the work of all the key stakeholders. Thank you, Leader.
Brilliant, Julie, thank you. Lots of good stuff going on there. So you're absolutely right to highlight it. Councillor Chris.
Thank you, Leader. I notice Lowry's with us, and I just wanted to have some reassurance from her on outcome 2. That's the one that's concerned about pupils improving their Welsh language skills when they transfer from primary to secondary school. I'm a governor at Ysgol y Creuddyn, and I know the tremendous work that's gone on there with the immersion program and everything. So I'm not concerned about that at all. I think that's working incredibly well. It's really the transfer of pupils from schools like Ysgol y Creuddyn that have a very high provision of bilingual education. The children come out of such primary schools with very high levels of Welsh knowledge, and then well, historically it tends to be lost in the secondary school, and that tricky transfer from primary to secondary. So just wanted to ask Lowry how successful we have been in overcoming that problem that has been historically there.
Thank you, Councillor Cater. I'd like to respond, Chair, but if I may as well, I would like to bring in Delyth Jones as well, who leads on this programme of support during transition. In response, Councillor Cater, to that very good point, it has been difficult over this past 18 months. It's been really a real challenge. We've had lots of parents expressing their concerns and anxieties about those children who are coming from non-Welsh speaking backgrounds, who attend either a Welsh primary stream or a Welsh primary school, and they are most concerned about the transfer to Ysgol y Creuddyn. So Delyth will be able to come in, but what we've done over the past 18 months is we've done some targeted support. So used our language resource in Dyffryn and Enfys as a satellite provision, which we've got a wealth of resources and skilled staff. And we've been putting in targeted support for those identified groups of learners where we felt they would need an additional boost. But I'd like to invite Delyth just to give a short summary of the work that we've been doing in terms of the immersion and the trochi, if I may, Chair.
Pnawn da bawb. Just to let you know, with Canolfan Iaith Conwy based in Ysgol Dyffryn Enfys, it's for latecomers into the authority from people who live outside Wales coming into Welsh medium schools. So we've had an intensive course there. We've been able to have those over the autumn term and this term, and we have been to full capacity. But however, during the COVID periods, we have supported, we've used our staff, we've supported all our schools via Hub and Google Classroom. We've also supported the staff at Ysgol y Creuddyn to help with the pupils that are on the trochi, so that we support them virtually with resources that they can do at home as well as in school with a blended learning and accelerated learning as well. So we've had a vast wealth of resources really from the Welsh Advisory Team and the staff at Canolfan Iaith Conwy to support these learners during this difficult period.
Chris, do you want to come back in? Are you okay?
No, diolch yn fawr iawn. I'm happy with doing hapus. Hapus iawn.
Yeah. And Leader, can I just add to that when we were with the head teacher at Creuddyn, it was really encouraging actually, because that was one of the concerns I had, that parents would be worried due to COVID that if their young person was to choose a Welsh education and they were not familiar with the language or only had a minimal amount of Welsh, that they would be concerned. And actually that's not been the case at all. And they have a really good support network in place at Creuddyn and at Dyffryn Conwy to support families with that anyway. But yeah, the feedback from parents has been really positive. So that's good to hear. It doesn't seem as though it's going to have an impact on the numbers that choose Welsh education.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, and I think once again, it's another example of where our officers and teachers have gone above and beyond and found really innovative ways of supporting people despite the challenges. So absolutely to be congratulated. Councillor Cheryl.
Thanks very much, Leader. Just like to say I really welcome this, and particularly the fact that our learners with additional learning needs are able to learn in their own language of choice. That's really, really important for their development. I'd just like to ask, did we have any comment or input from our Welsh language champion? I don't think I see him here today with this. Did anyone, did he have any input in this? Thank you. No, okay.
I think anybody knows.
What was the answer?
We'll take that as a maybe. Councillor Louise.
Yes, thanks for this report. And it is obviously really important that we can get as many children as possible speaking Welsh at an early age, where it just becomes natural to them, and learning a second language, regardless of what it is really good for kids. And I do feel that I have actually failed my own children, because they have gone, I don't speak Welsh in the home, they've gone to a local school in Llandudno and they are not even close to being bilingual. They can speak playground Welsh, singing Welsh, etc. And yet I've got friends on Anglesey whose children go, again, non-Welsh speaking, whose children have just gone to the local primary school, and hey presto, they can speak Welsh and have gone on to use that already, even though they're teenagers, to be able to get jobs as within leisure facilities on Anglesey that they perhaps wouldn't have got had they not spoke Welsh. So I suppose the question is that with all the good intention, and obviously I know parents who sent their kids specifically to Creuddyn and have been very positive about that school. So the question, I suppose it's quite a controversial one, is why don't we just make all schools like Dyffryn Conwy and Creuddyn? Because obviously if my children go on to John Bright's, they will not come out Welsh speaking. And of course the issue for me is, if I want my children to remain living in North Wales, you know, Mother Hen doesn't want them to leave the area, they are going to be discriminated against because they're not fluent in Welsh. So they will struggle to become a teacher, possibly a lot of public sector jobs are Welsh essential. So it will actually discriminate against my children in the job market, which I really struggle with. So I want my kids to learn Welsh. So we are actively looking at Creuddyn. So again, why don't we make all schools like Creuddyn?
So, do you want to answer that one?
So thank you, Councillor Louise. I know we can always rely on you for a controversial question, so here's a controversial answer in response to that. Absolutely agreed. And I think, you know, as a local authority, that should be our vision. And that's what we're trying to introduce as part of our next WESP now, which we will be bringing to you, our Democratic colleagues, during the autumn term. There is now a draft categorisation policy out, which we are looking to implement here. So it's a Welsh Government language categorisation policy. And what we're trying to do is, bit by bit, we're trying to make sure that every parent within our local authority has that choice. They have the choice to send their children to a school which will introduce them into bilingualism, into the Welsh culture, and that they'll be leaving that school with a certain level of Welsh language. It is, as you say, you know, people have mixed views on it, but I think we're in a unique position here as Conway, because we've got an array of linguistic abilities. We've got our Tywyn Abergele end, which are quite anglicised, but we've got our Penmawr Llanfyddechan end, which are, you know, lots of Welsh language families. So I think that's the vision, Louise and Councillor Louise, and we really would value your support as members in trying to fulfil and make that happen here in Conway. And I'm in complete agreement, and I know that Delyth is as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's sort of frustrating that it happens naturally in other parts of North Wales without parents having to do a lot of input, and here parents have to make the conscious decision to move their children out of, you know, the natural secondary school where they think they're going, and put them in another one because they want them to speak Welsh. And obviously all of this, as you say, the parents have got to come along with it. If we start forcing parents to learn a language and have to come home and try and do homework in a different language, it's not going to work. So I suppose it's a slow burn, but certainly I do appreciate the importance of the language now if I want my children to live and work in North Wales. But thank you.
Okay, so we've no other speakers. Just very quickly, my adult kids regret they didn't go through Welsh medium school. So along with Louise, I guess I failed them, but I just don't think the information was there, or the reassurance that they would manage well, or they'd be educated well. So that is part of my fault, but it's a big reason why I still sit on the Welsh Language Board, because I think we need to change that, and we need to make it an automatic choice for people. So it's certainly something I'd be fully supportive of. But to move back to this motion, and Julie, if you've moved it, if no one else has, I would be happy to second both the recommendations. Members happy to indicate support? Fantastic. Louise could have put 2 hands up there, but that's brilliant. We'll move on to agenda item number 11. Councillor Gromway would normally take this, but he's had to attend a funeral, so as it's my own portfolio, I've agreed to take it. So it's on pages 226 to 309. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so as part of our replacement local development plan, we have to make an assessment of how much land we'll need from planning for employment purposes. The last time we did a study was 2019, but given the COVID pandemic we've come through and the changes that will potentially make to our economy, we looked to do a new study which was carried out by Litchfield. It's a very detailed study. It's on page 232 to 309, some really interesting data in there, but essentially what it's come back to is on page 226.1.2. The key findings of this report are that the revised Conway LDP will need to provide between 14 hectares and 20 hectares employment land up to 2033, with a preferred level of 15.6 hectares based on a split of 30% office use and 70% light industrial, general industrial, and storage distribution uses. Interesting to note, all that's really changed since 2019 is the split. In 2019, the recommendation was 50% office, 50% industrial. It seems to make sort of fairly common sense with COVID that we're going to need less office space, more distribution space, more warehouse space. So instinctively, it looks a bit right. So I'm happy to move the recommendation on page 227. It was also very well supported by Economy in Place, who did spend quite a bit of time going through it. So I'm happy to take any questions. Councillor Gregg, did you want to come in?
Thank you, Leader. To be honest, I just want to congratulate James and his team on the work on this. Obviously, I've been involved in some of the RLDP background groups as well, and the phenomenal amount of data being collated and the work done given the COVID situation to update is excellent. I'll just second your proposal, Leader.
Yeah, I entirely agree, Greg. Lots of work going on in the background, which isn't always recognised. Councillor Louise.
Yeah, it says what we think we need, but it's whether we've got the land to deliver it, isn't it, really? I'm just thinking about a recent planning application on an employment land site, which is now possibly going to be housing. So we're always going to be in that dilemma, that conflict, aren't we, Vicky, between employment land and housing land. But obviously this is the detailed report shows us what we do need. And obviously with my economy portfolio hat, I'm always going to side for employment land, but those battles will have a planning later on. But yeah, really detailed report by Litchfields with James Harland supported. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? No. So I've proposed that Greg second the recommendation, which is that Cabinet approved the Conwy Employment Land Review updated 2020 as part of the revised local development plan evidence space. Can members indicate they're happy with that? Fantastic. So we'll move on to 11.2, which is replacement local development plan evidence base employment land investment and hierarchy. Again, there's a really complicated or really detailed report that's been done on this, but it's essentially in 3.4. It sets out, sorry, page 312, apologies, I'm on the wrong, 1 second, on the wrong 3.4. Okay, right. So 3.4, page 313. So essentially, we're looking at how we allocate land and the sort of hierarchy of use. So in 3.4, it states the preferred choice is the existing safeguarded employment sites, existing employment premises, and LDP allocated sites. For B1 uses, town and local centres should be explored in the first instance. The strategic planning policy team have compiled a database of land and premises to assist investors in finding a suitable site. So if somebody wants to set up a business, they can get in touch with us. We can point them in the right direction in terms of sites that are available. So that'd be the first choice. Second choice, if that's not suitable, would be to look at suitable brownfield sites. So that can include the reuse and adaptation of redundant rural buildings. And our third choice will be greenfield land for obvious reasons. We don't make any more of it, so we want to retain as much as we can for open space, agricultural, etc. So it's fairly straightforward. Where are we? The recommendations on page 311 at 2.1 and 2.2. I'm happy to move that. If there's any comments from members, I shall take them. Councillor Gregg.
Yeah, again, just want to second the evidence-based, Leader.
Okay, so if there's no other comments, we've had a proposer and a seconder. Members happy to indicate? Thank you very much. Okay, so on to item number 12, which is the finance, revenue and benefits portfolio. Apologies, my paperwork's got a bit haywire. So this is the financial outturn 2020-2021. It's pages 326 to 335, and Councillor Brian Cossey will be presenting this. Thank you, Brian.
Yes. Thank you, Leader. Thank you. I'm presenting to all the reports showing the financial outturn for 2020-21. I don't propose to go into a huge amount of detail because I think you've all read the report, and of course quite a lot of the information there is historic. But the tables on page 333 and 334, they show you the final figures as at the 31st of March 2021, and really on the face of it, they show us in a very favourable position. But you have to cast your mind back to when we all sat in the council chamber on the 7th of March last year and passed the budget, and we all thought that was fine. And then, of course, the chief executive came along a couple of weeks later and told everybody that they had to work from home. And really, as far as the financial portfolio was concerned, that centres on a horrific roller coaster ride. You know, the no income, there were additional costs because of the pandemic, and of course savings and cuts in budget lines had to be put on hold because we all had far more important things to do. But we must also give credit to the Welsh Government, because they have given us significant additional funding during the year, and that's why it looks as though we end the year in a better position than we started off with. And at this time, I really must, I hope on behalf of all of you, highly commend all our finance staff for all the work that they did during that financial year, not just the finance staff in the centre, but the finance staff in each of the departments, who, although they were working from home, have obviously very well coordinated, because we have ended up the financial year in a significantly good place. But we must also look from the 31st of March to the current year, where we've all got to remember that things haven't changed a great deal. The balances that we're showing on pages 333 and 334, they will be needed for this current financial year as well. We're still having to claim money from Welsh Government, sort of monthly in arrears. For how long, we don't know. How well they will consider those claims also, we don't know. We've got the pay rises for teachers and our own staff to consider. We don't yet know whether they will be fully funded or not. So I don't want any of you to think that we are out of the woods. We need to be extremely careful over this current financial year as well. And you may remember that Andrew last year, he didn't provide us with his usual quarterly updates. He very carefully gave us briefings to try to keep us up to date with the situation. He just could not put figures into tables because the situation was so fluid. And I think you'll find that this year is no different. I don't think we can expect Amanda to do anything else but to continue those briefings in exactly the same way. And Leader, before I move to the recommendations in the report, of which I've got one slight change, I wonder if you would allow Amanda, our new Director of Finance, to say a few words on how she sees the current financial position, please.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I'd be delighted to. Amanda?
Thank you very much, Chair. I guess really just to echo Councillor Bryan's views there. I think in terms of the position this year, it is as it was last year, in the sense of, obviously we're continuing with the claims to Welsh Government through the hardship fund. We've submitted a number of those already. We're waiting to hear about the submission of the claim to do with lost income, etc. So the position is still very fluid, and again, as Councillor Bryan mentioned, there's those uncertainties around pay awards for both teachers and non-teaching staff. So there are still an awful lot of pressures in the current year's financial position without looking further forward. So whilst it's fantastic news that the council's reserves were boosted at the end of last year, and we're in a little bit more of a resilient place than we were before, I think it would be folly to think that creates a position where we're fine and dandy, because clearly there are a lot of uncertainties still outstanding. As Councillor Bryan indicated, though, I think I will, with your permission, if you're happy, through Councillor Bryan, come back with those updates as he indicates, rather than the historic usual sort of budget monitoring reports, because we're not in a position to give those at the moment. And I'd hope we could come back with some kind of updates here sort of in the September time with that. So if that's okay. back to you, Councillor.
Yep.
Thank
Brilliant.
you, Amanda. Yeah, I mean, that's really a message both for us as Cabinet, but also finance scrutiny. You know, they cannot expect to have the usual Andrew tables. It's just, as I say, so fluid. But if we move to the recommendations, obviously members accept the report reflecting the final revenue outturn position for 2021. That you note that the general fund balances as at the 1st of April is in the sum of 2.91 million, and that the overall level of reserves and balances is 26.2 million. I just want to make a change to 3.3. Amanda's been having words with the Wales Audit Office, and it's possible that our statement of account will not be approved by September. They also obviously have COVID-related issues, and they lost one very good auditor, which we managed to pick up. So they're down a member of staff, unfortunately. So the chances are that the statement of account won't be looked at till October. Talking to Amanda, that's too late. She wishes to bring a report to scrutiny and to Cabinet with regard to reserves and balances in September. So I'd just like to amend 3.3 to that members review the reserves and balances at a later meeting, full stop, and remove once the statement of accounts has been approved.
Okay, thanks so much, Councillor Bryan. Any members, any comments they'd like to make? No?
Leader, sorry,
Yeah,
there was
sorry.
one additional recommendation from scrutiny.
Oh,
if
sorry.
you, yeah,
Sorry, Sean, I missed that.
okay, it's
So-
there to thank the staff officially.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, well, yes, I mean, I would certainly propose that recommendation. We should thank every member of staff for their good household management of our finances, not just the financial staff. Every single member of staff has had to have some input into our financial situation to date. And we should thank every single one of them for all the hard work that they put in to keep us on very much an even keel.
Thanks, Brian. Councillor Gregg.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. I just want to agree with Councillor Bryan's comments there, and in particular, it's the unseen people, the heads of service, the financial staff that work with them. They've all worked together, worked with Andrew and his team, and Sam previously, and obviously Councillor Bryan now. And it's an amazing piece of work given what we've been through and the challenges. So I'm quite happy to second the report and the recommendations as listed by Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Greg. Councillor Sherrill.
Thanks very much, Leader, and thanks to Brian for that report. I'd just like to, I won't let today go without the opportunity of flagging up the additional pressures we're going to be facing in social care and safeguarding over the coming 12 months at least. Things are now, as we're coming into another phase of COVID, we are seeing increased pressures in social care, in safeguarding, in our looked after children's services, our older people's, our disabilities, and there are carers out there who are absolutely on the knees, and that's all going to have a financial implication as well as the the implication on people's lives. So I want to flag that up, that we need to have it that clearly in our minds as we go forward. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Right, Cheryl. Yeah.
Yeah.
We cannot take our foot off the pedal for 1 minute.
Okay. So, yeah, I entirely agree. It's great to see these reserves, but they can disappear in a heartbeat if we don't receive, the funding levels we need. Now, I'm very clear as leader that this council has done amazing things, but we've had the revenue to do it. My old housing team, there's no street homeless in Conway. For years, they've battled against that. We've never had the funding to do it. So we got the money. The professional people that they're able to do those things, and I'm hopeful, a bit naively maybe, that Welsh Government will recognise the role the local government plays in fundamentally delivering those services, and also the money it saves in the long term by taking people off the streets and their health and mental well-being. all these things. But brilliant. We've had, thank you ever so much for that, Brian. Thanks, Amanda, and thanks to all the team. So we've had proposer and seconder. Can members indicate they're in support? Fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll move on to agenda item 13, which sits within the environment and transportation portfolio. It's a cost-effective method of dealing with roof repairs of Porth areas. Greg is going to take this.
Yep, thank you, Leader. As you'll be aware, the Council requested on the 4th of March 2021 that an update be provided to Finance and Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee in relation to the Porth Eras roof works. The cost of maintaining the roof has been examined and has been identified that some of the leaks reported at Porth Eras were not a direct result of water ingress through the roof. However, these works carried out to date have been successful in resolving these issues. The most cost-effective way of addressing the problem, therefore, remains to monitor and undertake reactive repairs. This is obviously coming to ERF to look at as a practical engineering solution, which is what we've done. And if you look at 3.16, the table shows that we have spent £63,625 repairing and maintaining the roof over the past 9 years, giving an average cost of £7,000 per year. One of the most significant items being the most recent piece of work opening up the water and re-waterproofing the roof above the main entrance. It should be noted that none of these are temporary repairs. This is pieces of permanent work, and that these repairs have been effective in either stopping or diverting any leaks out of the building and have carried on without disruption to the building users. No new leaks have been reported in these areas, all become apparent, indicating these measures have addressed the issues and have been identified. There is no reason to suspect we will continue to spend at or above this level. Therefore, the report gives 3 options of A, to replace the entire roof area, cost of £490,000. B, replace only the area of the roof that's above the habitable areas at £305,000, or C, which is the recommendation at 2.1, to continue to repair leaks if and when they occur on a budget of £0 to £7,000. Given the works that have been carried out to date and the actual current status of the roof, obviously the recommendation is that the roof continues to be monitored and reactive repairs undertaken as and when required in option C in section 4 of the report. Therefore, I move 2.1. Thank you, Ada.
Thank you, Greg. Very clear explanation. Any members like to comment on that, Councillor Bryan?
Only to second the recommendation, Leader. I think it's a very sensible solution to the problem.
Any other comments? No. So we've had a seconded proposer. I entirely agree. A roof of that design, that type's going to need ongoing maintenance. The sums involved are very reasonable. You could replace the whole roof and still have the same ongoing costs. So I think it's a really sensible and practical solution to the problem. So we've had a proposer and a seconder. Members indicate they're in favour, please. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Item 14, exempt items, Local Government Act 1972, Section 100A and Schedule 12A, access to information.